So far, the classes include looking in the mirror, learning about fixes, learning about the old H-Corp tech, and PTSD-infused war stories. Day 5 was the start of Honglu's class, titled Surviving Hongguan. This is not going to be easy for Jia Xichun, considering that this is her older brother that is teaching this one. He gives a moderate amount of Ji and Ren, but minimal Yong. Both Honglu and Lin Dayu walks in, the former asking how classes were going. She remarks that she's not him. She pays attention in class. Then Sinclair noticed Lin Dayu. He laughed briefly and then explained that she was insistent on helping him out, even though he refused because she looks preoccupied. Lin Dayu made it clear that the moment that she found out about the contents of his lesson plan, she simply couldn't allow him to do this alone. Dante understood that this was going to be another serious class. Lin Dayu then apologized for the delayed greetings and greeted the hierarch. Jia Xichun saw that as a while since she heard that greeting around there. Then she asked about Zoe Baochai. Was it okay for a Zoe family bodyguard to be there? It turned out that she was there for her own reasons. She was no longer employed as Zoe Baochai's guard. Sinclair suspected that she got fired. Lin Dayu implied that she must have been given part of the blame, as everything she did that day, including accompanying them, was under Zoe Baochai's orders. As for why her services were no longer required, it was unclear. She suddenly let her go after all that trouble was over. After thinking about this silently, she then focused on what Honglu was there to teach her. His last lesson plan about not making things awkward got vetoed by Zilu, so he could have taught her something if they were children, but he spent most of his time stuck in Yi Hongguan before leaving Hongguan itself. She didn't know what he could possibly have to teach her. He told her not to worry. This was one thing that he was pretty good at. His lesson for them was, he then wrote on the chalkboard in neat handwriting, Surviving Hongguan. Jia Xichun didn't think that she needed any help in that department from him. She knew that he's had his own fair share of assassination attempts, but their grandmother and elder's favour sheltered him from the worst of it. Sinclair told him that she's not wrong, back when they had to fight through a bunch of sweepers. Wasn't he one of the handful that got assassinated? Ah yes, this was during Chapter 7.5 Part 2, where they had to deal with the Mao branch of the Haishu, along with Ricardo of the Middle, a big brother, to be more precise, and the sweepers. Honglu then told them that he was wandering the hallways because he felt something was off about his room, until Dante told them to go, well, to all go back to their rooms, of course. Dante remembered that, and would rather that they didn't. Then Dante asked if he thought that it was their fault. Jia Xichun admitted that he had some intuition. Honglu decided to prove himself. He asked Lin Dayu to prepare the thing. She told him that she had her utmost faith, asking Honglu to practice caution. Sometime later, Lin Daiyu appeared with 4 bowls splashing with tea, before sprinkling some powder into one of them. Sinclair asked, "What was that?" Jia Xichun looked annoyed as it was powdered wolfsbane. She saw where this was going. Now, wolfsbane is a poisonous plant. It can cause nausea and potentially death by respiratory paralysis. This is due to the toxin aconitine. Aconitine, yes, that's... Yes, I know. Still struggle with English. She understood that he was going to teach her which of the bowls contains poison, telling him to stop now. She learned to recognize poisons when she was 7. Lin Daiyu made it clear that if it was just wolfsbane, she wouldn't have been there to accompany him. She did so as the poison was sprinkled into 2 other bowls. Honglu waited for her to be done with this task, then asked her to mix them up. This was now a cause for concern for Sinclair. Lin Daiyu switched around the bowls so that the safe one and the unsafe ones couldn't be determined. There was also 3 silver spoons in his hand. Lin Daiyu explained that there were... Well, these spoons were custom made, a must-have item for children of the 4 great houses. They can detect non-sulfuric poison as well. Jia Xichun was aware of this. They're actually... Then she was disgusted. Sinclair wanted to know what she meant. She then dismissed this concern. He laughed at this amusingly, saying that in Hongguan, where they're beset by threats of assassination from all directions, knowledge alone isn't enough to save her. She asked him what he... But Honglu opened his eyes before she could finish that sentence. He threw the silver spoons in his hands towards 3 bowls of the 4 there, and immediately chugged the 4th down, which didn't have the spoon in it. Jia Xichun thought him to be insane. He barely checked them for... He enjoyed Zeren's Nila tea. It was always delicious, even when cooled. The 3 spoons that Honglu cast earlier were slowly melting away after quickly becoming tarnished black. Sinclair was concerned, asking if wolfsbane is... Was it supposed to melt through metal? Honglu explained that they like to be thorough with their poisons in Dagwan Yuan, since everyone has been trained for immunity since childhood, so a mix of poisons was needed to have a real effect. Jia Xichun was increasingly frustrated by this. She then decided not to argue, asking what's his secret. Sinclair wanted to know this as well. Did they sound different? Honglu apparently went with his hunch. Sinclair wanted to ask how they're supposed to know that they're not Heathcliff. Honglu told them that they'll get the hang of it. After a few tries, he'll help them out, asking if they should begin with 2 bulls. He then proceeded to help them with this. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if some within the great families hired tasters to check if it's safe for their masters. Well, it's something that they've done in real-life history in the distant past. If they didn't collapse and die in terrible agony, it was safe for their masters to eat or drink, depending on what was tasted. Jia Xichun understood that when he said that he just avoided whatever felt wrong, he was reflexively identifying the threat by reading the room and connecting it to his intuitive experiences. Sinclair understood that he was using Lin Daiyu's anxious breathing to clue him in. Jia Xichun understood that this was how he was able to survive for so long. Honglu told her that the adepts of each Haishu branch, at least those that she controls, will come to her aid with a flick of her wrist. Her residence, Nuan Zhengwu, would be engineered by the best craftsmen to become a safe fortress, stocked to the brim with all kinds of useful boluses to protect her life. Even still, there will come a day when she starts to feel this creeping sensation, whose origin she couldn't identify. And when that happens, he hopes that she doesn't brush it off as nothing. She believed that he was worrying over nothing. She seemed to express dissatisfaction, but there was a softened expression that Dante could tell that she was glad to see him worried. The rest of the day, lessons continued, and mastering this class granted the passive How to Survive, where in a fight, when she takes damage that brings HP to 0, the damage is nullified. Then, the HP can't drop below 1 for that turn, once per battle. At the end of the day, Zigong and Wei came to meet Jia Xichun, informing her that every 6 days she'll be subject to midterms, prepared by the board of directors. And Jia Wenchun. A palanquin had been prepared to take her to the exam sites, only by passing the tests that Jia Xichun might retain her status as the family hierarch. Wei was worried about Jia Xichun. Zigong told him not to worry. He sounded like he was at a funeral. She was going to pass the test with ease as long as she has been diligently taking her classes. To Wei, this wasn't the problem. He hoped that he could survive until she returned. Dante understood that his funeral voice wasn't out of concern for Jia Xichun. In fact, Jia Xichun was more concerned about Wei, and Wei made it clear that he was suffering PTSD flashbacks that he couldn't escape from, even in dreams. The unfinished bundles of paperwork cascading over him like a storm, burying him. Zigong told him that it was no dream at all. She had never once seen paperwork, trained in the arts of airwalking until now. She realized that she was that sleep-deprived. Dante understood that they were the only ones going through hell. On day 6, Jia Xichun was taken to the sparring grounds and met her first midterm test. She identified her first opponent as one of the Shi boys. This was Shi Huazhen. He had hoped to fight her in the family hierarch war, if she had ran into him then. Jia Xichun asked if this was supposed to be a sparring match, asking why does it sound like he has a personal grudge against her. Shi Huazhen implied that it was because anyone connected to the mess of the conspiracy to overthrow her was dragged away and put under investigation, including half of his family, which means more room for him. He should be thanking her. Asking why she doesn't declare war against the Shi family at this point, it'd be much easier. Clearly, he has something against her. She didn't see war as easy. It never was. This threw him off, wanting to know what she meant by that. She didn't see this as something to talk about so lightly, even as a joke. His family was under investigation for treason against Daguan Yuan. The verdict is uncertain, so if they're innocent... So if they're innocent, they'll be released soon enough. This only him off, believing that they'll all be ruled as guilty regardless of what really happened. He can't even pay them a visit because the cells were hidden all over Hongguan. She told him that they weren't hidden. It's because they were designed to move around in very short intervals. She was annoyed by this, as this design would it would lead people to make some unfortunate assumptions, even though the initial purpose was likely to prevent escapes. She told him that she recently gained a better understanding of Hongguan's structure, so she's planning to change their policy so that prisoners that are still on trial would be allowed to have fixed locations for their detainment. He wanted to know where she annoyingly told him that she was lucky to take a few excellent classes recently. She managed to reflect on herself a bit as well. He understood that she changed a little, then he got on with it, telling her to not expect him to go easy on her. He had his own things to take care of. She saw this as good. They should do this. She told him that many illustrious fixers had said that naught but disparagement awaits unjust victories. Then they fought. Jia Xichun's capabilities will depend on how much development she's had with her classes, and how much she's developed with the 3 supercategories, but if she was developed enough, she would prevail against Xichun. Yes, in this battle, as well as any battle involving Jia Xichun, was outside of Dante's control. It was all up to her. And it was not a fight to the death. The first one to be staggered loses. Xichun said that she won and told her to stop giving him that look and get out of there. Jia Xichun asked if he lost most of his clan during the family hierarch war. He confirmed this, asking if she's calling him a penniless loser. She was, and this angered him. And then she said that she's sure that it's what she looks like to him as well. He couldn't dispute that. Jia Xichun didn't want this, or any other clan member who died there to have died for nothing. If she shows weakness, she's making everyone who participated look weak. So she's going to win without the fertile soil that her predecessors left behind, because their legacy was unjustly nourished by the blood and tears of Hongguan itself. He was clearly listening to what she had to say. She then addressed him by name, seeing him as tenacious, determined, and strong of will. Seeing this is why everyone stood by him, down to the last. Yes, this threw him off as she knew his name, and she confirmed this, asking if he wants to make them sing his name in glory for the remaining history of Hongguan. Yeah, that's going to count for her. He gets annoyed when someone doesn't remember his name. This was made clear when he fought the damned dozen in round 2. Jia Xichun might have passed the first test, but there's still 24 more days to go, and she had her next series of classes to attend. Ishmael would start teaching her on day 7. Hers was called Exploring and Overcoming the Unknown, Jianghu Journeys. Her class is good for gaining Yong, but not so much for the rest. Ishmael congratulated Jia Xichun on passing the first test. Jia Xichun thanked her, admitting that the classes were coming in handy. Ishmael liked her attitude. Then she got to the lesson, wanting them to take a good look at what she prepared for that day. Jia Xichun made it clear that she was confused as she was teaching about exploring at an indoors class. Ishmael knew where to begin. It was a very big subject, free soloing to the top of the highest building in Hongguan, likely involving climbing it. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if some deviant fixers did that to deliver a package. Other possibilities included surviving 10 days in Hongguan's back streets with only 3 items, along with plenty of other ideas that were denied, as Zilu said that it was rightly so, hinting that she at least had a part in that. Moving on from that, she realized exploring isn't always limited to adventures in the physical space. A few weeks ago, before they arrived in District 8, Ishmael was there to fill in, since that game needed a certain number of players, but she asked if they can call that tabletop game an adventure. Yisang saw imagination can make it as real as... Then he saw quite a move. She then rolled for damage. This was most pleasing to Don Quixote as she pummeled the Gorgon with her fireball spell, making it crispy. So she was a mage type. Yisang saw that this was a formidable foe. It was wonderfully executed. This surprised Ishmael. She then made her next move. Back in the present, Jia Xichun then asked if that's how she came up with that. She played a few other games, but this was new to her, too. She's pretty new in general. This was a local game popular with the youths of Hongguan, with generally positive reviews, called Jianghu Journeys, or J&J. Dante saw this as a board game with numerous cards and minifigures. Jia Xichun asked what those huge piles of papers have to do with exploration. Ishmael told them rule number 1, the most experienced player among those gathered becomes the JM. Jia Xichun wanted to know what that meant. Ishmael replied, Journey Master. One who designs the story around the player's choices, sets the stage for what happens next, and generally helps guide the explorers to safely arrive at their goals. It's why the most experienced player takes that role, which would be her. Sinclair looks at Wiz, Str, and Dex. Yes, Wiz, Str, and Dex. Each character seems to have stats, and they just pick from a set of pre-made characters. Jia Xichun understood that she's supposed to be playing a character's role. There was some clear confusion in their eyes. Ishmael then explained that they've arrived at the great city of Yanyun, or Smoke Cloud, a place known to be a gathering hub of all kinds of influential people. They travelled there in search of, she thought about it, a legendary treasure called the Tianya Sword, or the Sword of Farland. Jia Xichun understood where they were, with some minor annoyance, asking why they're looking for that sword. Ishmael had to think about it, and she spoke of a legend that the Tianya Sword was the only way to quell the chaos of those lands and bring peace to its people. Also, having that sword is the proof of the true leader of those lands. Jia Xichun understood, along with Yanyun must be in trouble as well. Dante saw that this was an oddly familiar setting to Jia Xichun. Ishmael told them that they had to find that sword. Jia Xichun told her that she would claim the Tianya sword, no matter what it cost her. This game is that world's equivalent, or at least District 8's equivalent, of Dungeons & Dragons, a tabletop fantasy game where you roleplay a character. Yes, a character type with specific stats, where the dice determines what happens and the dungeon master gets the story flowing. This shows that tabletop games exist in this grimdark future, although why it's not Dungeons and Dragons? I'll sum up the reason why not. Legal thing. Wiz is clearly wisdom, likely magic or something social. Is strength, for those focused on brute force. Dex is dexterity for ranged and agile characters. Yes, they played this game for a time, making much progress. Ishmael, in full JM mode, said that from the rumours they've gathered, it seems that the Kezan Keep might have heard of the whereabouts of that sword, asking, what will they do? Sinclair walked up to the Kezan Keep, chatted him up and tried to gain his trust. Ishmael asked if he was sure. His whiz stat was extremely low right now, so he'll struggle to form even the simplest sentences. Sinclair thought about it and asked if there was a different way to gain his trust that doesn't involve sweet-talking him. He has a high strength stat, which would give him alternative methods of persuasion that doesn't require skill in speechcraft. Jia Xichun stopped him, as she's trying to convince the Kezan Keep, as, well, she has a decent chance at this, as her whiz stat was pretty high. Ishmael tells her that she passed the check. The Kezan Keep looks at her, having lowered his guard, but while he's still pretty wary of Sinclair, he wasn't too pleased by this, so he'll sit in a corner over there, unsheath his weapon and play around with it for a bit, as he expects, or rather is expected to do so. Dante asks if he was just role-playing Heathcliff now. Yeah, it's clear that Sinclair was playing a barbarian warrior type based on his huge strength and low wisdom, while Jia Xichun, at least one that can pass speechcraft checks. Ishmael then said, that the Kezan Keep shared some information about the sword that he heard. He explained that the party should seek what's northeast towards Zhenxi or Cloudrise Mountain. Ishmael then asked what was this? The Kezan Keep's eyes well with tears as he continues to explain. A patrolling guard beat his son pretty badly just for loitering around the guard. The wound was pretty severe, so he needed medicine, but he couldn't seem to find any. Sinclair saw this as unfortunate. Jia Xichun saw it as not her problem. They had a job to do. They got what they came there for, they should leave. Ishmael told them that JMs aren't supposed to interfere with the players' choices, but she'd make the same choice. They can't stop and help out for every side quest, when there's a whole lot of adventure to go through. Then Sinclair, the barbarian, decided that they weren't leaving. He's going to get him the medicine. Jia Xichun was confused by his action. After a series of events, where Sinclair had to do a lot and Jia Xichun had to do whatever was needed with him. According to Ishmael, the Kezan Keep's son, who was fortunately able to recover, heard their story and hesitantly shared what he knew. He spoke of the fairy Yao Guai, guardian of the Tianya sword, its power glowing under, and indeed growing, under bright moonlight. Jia Xichun she realized that it was the full moon right now. They should wait until the sky is overcast. Ishmael then said that the Kezan Keep's son looked at the clouds and told them that it might be raining in about a week. Jia Xichun was glad that they helped him out. Sinclair then said that they should prepare before they go. Then we skip to when they fought the fairy Yao Guai, where Ishmael said that they have to roll a 15 or higher to hit. Jia Xichun rolled a 16, which, according to Ishmael, resulted in a final singular stroke from Jia Xichun. The fairy Yao Guai fell to the ground, defeated. Sinclair then realized that the Tianya sword was theirs. Ishmael told them. Excited, the party ran up to the sword embedded deep into the earth, and she grabbed enthusiastically onto the hilt. And Jia Xichun knew that with that they can. Then Ishmael revealed something. The defeated fairy Yao Guai, whom they assumed was dead, suddenly jumped to its feet and lunged at Jia Xichun, who had just pulled the sword from the ground. Sinclair didn't like that, so he quickly got between Jia Xichun and the monster. Jia Xichun reminded him that if it crits, it'll be pretty deadly even for him. According to Ishmael, he got a 1 and a 1. The evasion save was a critical fail. Sinclair was fine with that. Ishmael looked annoyed by this. She said that Sinclair fell to the ground, bleeding profusely from the gaping wound. The Yao Guai lay still as well, the final vestiges of its strength completely spent. This was troubling to Jia Xichun. Sinclair told her to go on without him, take the sword, go down to the village, become the leader they needed. Yes, become the leader they needed. The sword as a proof. She refused, as the sword would mean nothing without him. She'll bandage him up and carry him back. She won't leave him behind and descend the mountain on her own. Ishmael accepted the choice. The bleeding stopped as soon as she wrapped him up. He's that sturdy. That strike would have killed pretty much anyone else. Jia Xichun then told Sinclair to get on his feet. They're getting out together, telling him to grab onto her shoulder. He told her to look over there. Everyone that they helped and saved on their journey had come out to welcome them home. Jia Xichun agreed with him. If it weren't for him, she would have never have stopped and talked to every single villager there to hear their troubles. That sword was a symbol all along. Their efforts and experience were what taught her how to be a good leader, not the sword. Ishmael told her that the real success was everyone's efforts along the way. Dante suspected that the game overtook the class at some point. Mastering this class resulted in the passive, the Tianya sword, being gained, where at the end of the turn, at 15 or more poise potency. This poise potency is halved, and all allies, including her, heal for 10 HP and 3 SP, along with all removable negative effects from all allies being removed from everyone. On day 9, next it's Masot's class that starts. It's called Judgment Containment. He gives slightly more Ji than other stats, but surprisingly he also increases morale. This class is in the training grounds. Then that autistic sinner tells them that, in regards to any activity, involvement of unnecessary emotions and personal judgment is to be wasteful. Sinclair needed elaboration on that. Masot shared an excerpt from his exchange with Dante 32 days ago. Sinclair didn't know what he meant. Masot quoted him, excuse me, Dante. I'm sorry to, ask you this, but most of us are fatally wounded, so can you please turn the clock just one more time? He finished that quote. He saw unnecessary interjections weighing down his request. Jia Xichun saw it as pretty bad. Sinclair asked if he stuttered that badly. Massault saw it as a waste of time to invoke emotions while delivering unfavorable news when it can be summed up with 2 words. We failed. Sinclair couldn't answer that. Massault then moved on to field practice. They must not ask a single question for the next 5 minutes. Sinclair saw this as easy enough. Then he looked like he was about to collapse due to a heart attack and fell to the floor. Sinclair asked if he was okay. And Dante asked the same, concerned about his health. Then Massault's eyes snapped open, telling him that the task failed. 5 minutes had not passed. Yes, the 5-minute mark, to be more precise. And Dante wasn't amused by this, and Sinclair accused him of cheating. Massault was reminded of something, of the incident Sinclair had so desperately wished to hide. Sinclair was concerned about what this was, despite his belief that none would ever find out his secret. There was one person who got to the bottom of that incident. Sinclair desperately wanted to know what he saw, and then Massault told him that he failed again. They continued the class after that. And mastering his class granted the apathetic response passive, which granted one offense level up, then gain 2 haste. Next turn, once per turn when other allies are hit. Day 10 was where the lessons were determined by whatever Dante chose them to be. But on day 11, Otis started her class called Intelligence Acquisition, Corner Your Enemy, which grants Z the most. She treated this as if she's training cadets. Then she tells them that today's lesson will cover intelligence acquisition. They will learn how to gain information from people. Jia Xichun sees herself as good as that. Rather good at that. She just had to turn them to her side by being generous with her spending, setting a good example as their superior. They'll eventually open up. Otis saw this as foolishness, confusing Jia Xichun. Otis saw this as among the worst strategies that she's ever heard, seeing this as wasteful to spend a limited military budget, along with time trying to butter them over. The most efficient means of attaining intelligence is torture. This idea scared Sinclair. Jia Xichun saw that as the worst strategy, as it would waste her clan's strength on something utterly useless. Besides, it might accidentally kill them. Otis saw this as more foolishness, and this annoyed Jia Xichun, asking her to stop saying that word. Otis saw this as simplistic and boring, seeing her imagination as limited. If that's her only definition of torture, then she said that this unit... Sinclair nervously stated that this wasn't exactly a military unit. Otis corrected herself by saying that Hongguan might be beyond Jia Xichun's ability to lead. Jia Xichun then awaited her lesson. Dante saw that this made her get on with this, and Otis told her that the most efficient method of torture isn't physical. Things like waterboarding, electrocution are inferior. They will learn the torture of language. With that method, they'll always find the answer they want. Use speechcraft to entrap their minds. Slowly constrict around them. This unnerved Sinclair. Otis finished by saying that they should let them take brief sighs of relief every time they give an answer. That's what they'll be learning, telling the cadets to get to their positions, which they did. learning how to do what she instructed, although I suspect that it would be something more sophisticated than strapping someone to a chair and making them listen to the worst songs ever made. Mastering her class will grant the passive POW torture technique, where on hitting a target, if the target has bind or bleed, Jia Xichun will gain 1 clash power-up. Next turn, 2 times per turn. Ooh, this could be useful if someone decided to use the Blood Fiend set, as they inflict bleed regularly. Either that or the Sunk Association identities, as a few of those can inflict bind. Either that or T-Corp identities. On day 12, her second match was upon her. This time she was facing Jia Xichun, who found out that she defeated Shi Huanzhen, telling her that she would do her best not to let that get to her head. He's always been their family's greatest shame. Jia Xichun told him to watch himself. It's not wise to underestimate the family underdogs. This surprised him. She told him that she managed to talk Shi Huanzhen into... And this was shocking to him, worrying that he reveals their parents. She told him that her forces were already on their way. He asked how did she know that it was Block 32. He barely managed to get them a hiding spot there. Then she knew it as well, making him believe that she knew to begin with, but she knew now. Jia Xichun then found out that she was tricking him into revealing the location. Jia Xichun he found... Let's just say that she found it to be far easier than it was during class. Jia Xichun had heard stories that she'd changed. He didn't know that she changed to be heartless. She didn't say much in response. He told her to say something, to not just stand there completely expressionless, and she continued to do just that. He gets it that she won't be shaken by small things like that. She continued as she did. Jia Xichun saw that it might fit the seat of the hierarch, however, a leader who responds with silence to their inferiors, a leader who considers them only disposable tools, is bound to rot. He refused to let someone so unqualified such as herself to retain power. He then fought Jia Xichun, who only continued to grow stronger with her education. Despite being far superior in combat ability than his other family member, he was still defeated by her. Jia Xichun berated himself by saying that he was so close. Jia Xichun then asked if he ever took the time to think about what might happen if Jia Wanchun actually gained control of Hongguan. Yeah, some don't think past the immediate gains. They'll be friendly at first. She'll acknowledge the authority of the board of directors, butter them up and compensate them for their efforts. But soon, they'll see people from other nests coming in there and taking up admin positions under the guise of advisors. The small families and clans will suffer first. When the time comes, she'll bet that he'll be saying the same thing then. He was so close. Yeah, a deal with the devil doesn't always begin with subjugation, but it always ends with it. Jia Xichun thought about this. He made it clear that it'll be a while before other members of his family will be let go. He was fully aware of this. They committed treason, thinking that they were piggybacking off Jia Xichun's forces, when in reality she discarded them even before it began. She made sure that nothing about it would stick to her. Jia Xichun thought about his parents. Jia Xichun asked him to think about this carefully, about Jia Xichun's vision of Dagyuan Yuan. Will it be more H Corp or Q Corp? He saw her points, but she's not giving him any more reason to trust her either. What guarantee does he have that she won't just toss them aside when they're no longer useful? She then revealed that the hiding place that she was told by him that he accidentally let slip, and he was silent of this, or rather at this. She knew about it for a while. Her Haishu identified their location long ago, but she didn't do anything because there wasn't any evidence that pointed to his parents' involvement. He asked if that was even true. This infuriated her, asking how low is his opinion of her. Jia Xichun made a big show of her own influence of the assembly, but she still has tight control over the Haishu of the family hierarchy. Jia Xichun thought that she was arresting every member of the Shi family without even questioning them. She told him that leaders must take good care of those who are in the same boat as them. Why would any hierarch go around arresting innocent people of H-Corp, left and right, making more enemies than they can afford to make? She didn't plan on doing this. So far, so good. But how will the next opponents and lessons go? Until next time, hail the rabbit!